A few weeks ago, the Attack on Titan anime finally got around to adapting this scene from the manga. A scene that boasts both Gabby's verbal admission that there were indeed no devils on that island, and Falco's "See Mikasa, this is how you do it" confession to Gabby. This is all done rather faithfully, being adapted basically word for word from the manga. But there was one particular visual addition that got me a-thinking, and that was the use of the birdcages. The manga version of this scene features a stimulating window as background detail, and that's about it. This scene exists in a humble abandoned room in Shinganshina's back streets, and panels are always framed looking at the characters in front of the window. We never see the other side of the room. This is changed in the anime, and this is not a criticism of either version. The simplicity works in the manga. I wouldn't change it for the world. This is not about comparing the two scenes or a discussion about which version is better. The fact is that in manga, text bubbles on the page do some of the heavy lifting in terms of visual engagement. A reader's eyes move to them and are guided through the scene. Your eyes are always moving while reading and therefore engaged, avoiding the potential visual boredom of the minimalistic backgrounds. But when you're adapting said still medium, where your eyes move across the page and determine the pace of progression, into a motion medium like anime where the pace of progression is controlled for you, there's a conventional need for more dynamism or visual flair by way of detail to be stimulating enough to keep the viewer visually engaged. The birdcages in this scene were implemented most directly for this reason, as decoration for the backgrounds or something visually new to cut to in the middle of a monologue. But the addition also got me thinking about a few other things regarding these birdcages. The birdcage is not a new symbol in Attack on Titan, with its strong thematic ties throughout the series to both the walls and Eren's character. The walls are likened thematically to humanity's birdcage from the onset. The opening monologues of both the manga and anime reference this. The walls are, after all, a literal enclosure that humanity has shut itself in, or has been shut in, physically limiting its own outreach and freedoms. Something Eren takes great exception to. He's rather fond of this freedom thing. He hates the walled birdcage he's trapped in. The Season 4 Part 2 ending leans into these thematic ties as well. The ED opens with a younger Eren walking along with the scarf he eventually gives to Mikasa wrapped around his neck, only for the scarf to transform into a bird and attempt to fly off into the horizon, only to eventually be entrapped by a manifesting dark birdcage that causes it to disperse. We follow its scattered ashes down to find Eren also entrapped in the birdcage. The birdcage is a stand-in for the walls here, which are very literal, physical barriers, holding Eren back from his ambitions of freedom. It was only when the birdcage was used in this scene, and connected to Gabby, an oft-paralleled character to Eren, that I began to also think about the birdcage symbolically representing something other than a physical barrier. As unlike Eren, who is trapped in physically by his birdcage, the walls, Gabby is of course trapped in mentally by her birdcage, her limited perspective on the world brought about by her brainwashing and ignorance. Themes about perspective are also not new to Attack on Titan, but connecting that with the pre-existing symbolism with the birdcage in this scene, I think is rather clever. This scene, let us not forget, boasts her verbal admission that there were no devils on Paradis. This scene is the acknowledgement that she was ignorant and in the wrong previously, finalizing her development out of the person she once was. As she reflects on her wrongdoings and the damage her mindset of ignorance and a limited perspective has caused, and continues to cause in other people, the closed birdcages are shown visually. But when the admission is made, and the conclusion of her monologue is reached, we cut to a birdcage thrust onto the ground, open, as Gabby has now escaped her mental birdcage. It's not exactly subtle, but whoever said subtlety was a virtue anyway. But now, armed with this additional layer of depth to the birdcage symbol in Attack on Titan, it also recontextualizes my earlier interpretations of the other ways it's utilized throughout the series. The ED could now also be reflective of Eren never escaping his mental birdcage and growing to understand other people like Gabby does. And to now try and bring this full circle, if we think back to the first king of Paradis, the creator of the walls, he created the walls lusting after ignorance. He wanted to to entrap and cut he and his people off from the world entirely, so he could curate limited perspectives to control them into staying within the walls, making it seemingly impossible for them to ever engage with or interfere with the happenings of the outside world. He entrapped his people not only in the physical birdcage of the walls, but in doing so, also entrapped them in a mental birdcage as well, making it even harder for an understanding between peoples to be met, or any progress to be made dealing with the fundamental causes of the wars he's running away from. So in this sense, the physical barrier creates the mental barrier. The birdcage is both a physically and mentally limiting symbol in Attack on Titan, which is something I'd never really thought about before. It's interesting stuff once considered, and I never would have thought about any of this if the birdcage wasn't used in this scene. Thanks, Gabby, you're the gift that keeps on giving. But if we can switch from all this thematic talk to some cinematography talk, there's another thing the inclusion of the birdcage in this scene got me thinking about. And that's the cinematic psychological effect of what I'm going to call the miscellaneous insert shot. This is all going to be rather poorly explained with terms I'm not sure I'm using correctly, so you're going to have to go with me a little bit here, but I think I am hitting on something. Let's backtrack a bit and reiterate. This scene is an emotionally charged one. Gabby's verbal admission, Falco's confession, we've been over this. These are big emotional character moments. And I think from a cinematography perspective, the miscellaneous insert shots of the birdcages in this scene also heighten the emotional resonance and impact of these big emotional character moments by emulating through the cinematography the act of averting your eyes. Averting your eyes is something I certainly do, and I think people generally do, in big emotional situations, like those depicted in this scene. If you are admitting faults or confessing your feelings to somebody, it's hard to look somebody in the eyes, or even look directly at the person. So one averts their eyes out of nervousness and vulnerability. And I find that doing this actually helps you think and speak clearer in these highly emotional, vulnerable situations. There's something about distracting yourself with something menial, but then forgetting about it, that seems to help some people, including me, get in a sort of hyper-focus. Sometimes I pace in my room like a lunatic, and it helps me think clearer. If I need to piss really badly, I work more productively. If I sway in the shower while having shower thoughts, I think of better ideas. If I'm in a loud room, for some reason, I work better. It seems that psychologically, these menial distractions for my often easily perturbed mind allows me to think better than if I was entirely comfortable or stationary. It's adversity theory or something. These examples all tap into the psychology behind averting your eyes in a difficult conversation, I think, so you think and speak clearer. And cutting to a miscellaneous insert shot, in this case of the birdcages, replicates to me this feeling of averting your eyes through the cinematography, which helps you further understand the mood of the scene and get inside the characters' heads, I think. The camera doesn't just focus on reverse shot of Gabby and Falco the whole scene as they have these character breakthroughs. The directing creates a sense of awkwardness by focusing on a miscellaneous birdcage in the corner of the room, as the camera averts its eyes. There's also a dissociative aspect to this directorial choice. This is a rather important, captivating conversation occurring between these characters, and the sudden cut to a miscellaneous shot of a birdcage should catch you off guard, and your brain really should traditionally scramble to take in all the new visual information on screen, but you almost don't realize that the shot has changed immediately. Your eyes sort of glaze over as you focus on what's being said, rather than the visuals themselves. You dissociate from the visuals for a second, and it creates again this sense of hyperfocus on the character moments of the scene, helping them resonate more. I was originally going to tie this into a whole Evangelion tangent here, as I love to do, but I'll save that for a follow-up video on the miscellaneous insert shot, I think. I think there's more to get into here that isn't entirely relevant to this video. But for now, tentatively, I think that's my spiel on the psychological effect through the cinematography of the miscellaneous insert shot. It's safe to say that the anime-only inclusion of the birdcage in this scene got me thinking about a few things. From uncovering a new thematic resonance of the birdcage motif, to thinking about miscellaneous insert shots generally, and cinematography. And I think overall this is reflective of why I'm enjoying Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 2 more than I ever have enjoyed the Attack on Titan anime. I was really down on Season 4 Part 1, but the slower pacing, stronger visuals, and the interesting additions and inspired directorial choices have won me over with Season 4 Part 2, and I'm actually having a great time week to week watching the episodes. I've tracked this journey of learned appreciation week by week on my second channel, Secondary ENT, as I review each episode as it comes out. I've even started recently being joined by other various creators in this space, like Rika7, who's a Twitch streamer who often talks about Attack on Titan, and Jaki Bacon, who you might know from his incredible editing on my Goodbye Attack on Titan video, or his antics on his own channel mostly to do with Vinland Saga. As well as recently Elite RE, who's a new Attack on Titan adjacent YouTuber on the scene. If you are thirsting for more Attack on Titan talk from me, head over to the second channel. The discussions each week are literally an hour plus long. I've also revamped my Patreon so that now you get access to an exclusive Discord, and can be credited in each proper upload, as you may have seen throughout this video. So head over there if you want to support me further. Support links in the description below. Thanks.